Thanks for choosing one of the movies I submitted for you guys to discuss and critique this week. And that movie being 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, the 1954 movie starring the legend Kirk Douglas. So I can't wait to hear what y'all think. And for all the listeners to your podcast who have a movie suggestion, send these guys an email at drive-in-double-feature-podcast@gmail.com. Until next time.
Hello and welcome to another Drive-In Double Feature. I'm Ryan.
I'm Nathan.
And as you heard from our intro this week, this is a viewer-submitted pick. And that was Bradley. He came through with us with the pick of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And that's what we're going to be talking about today on Thursday's episode.
It's an interesting pick. It's our first Disney movie. I don't think there's a lot of Disney movies to cover, but this is like a weird sci-fi movie. So you know what? It fits right in. And thank you, Bradley, for sending that in. I'm happy we watched it. I've never seen it before.
Yep, same here. Never seen it before, and I really do appreciate the pick. We always love hearing from our viewers, and we hope to do more in the future. But Nathan, I got to say that this may be a C movie, but it's definitely not a C movie.
Oh yeah, that was great job. I'd agree with you. Would you say it's a B movie, or is there only one B movie?
There's only one B movie that matters, in my opinion.
Yeah, true. But no, 20,000 Leagues. I never watched it because I don't know. I guess I never really had an interest in it. How about you? Were you ever interested in this movie?
I've heard about it, and like my stepdad has always been like, you got to watch 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's a classic, and I can definitely see how growing up with a movie like this, how you could have that perception. But right away, the production is really grand, really epic scale with the set pieces, but in my opinion, there's a lot of fat to this movie, too, that could be trimmed.
Yeah, I was really surprised that this movie is over 2 hours long, because there's a lot of, nothing. It definitely could be chopped up. But I will say, for 1954, it kind of blew me away with some of the stuff they did in 1954. I didn't even know it was that old of a movie. I thought it was more 1960s Walt Disney stuff. I don't know. They use a lot of really cool techniques, but there's a little too much fat. That's the best, just like you put it, there is a little too much fat to this movie.
Yeah, I get it. This is based off of the book, obviously, by Jules Verne, so they probably wanted to be as faithful as possible and include scenes that are in the book as well. But in terms of how this movie flows, there's a lot of really exciting scenes, or scenes that I do like a lot. But just a lot of those scenes in the middle of those action scenes, it's just a lot of really dull scenes. I hate to say that word, but it's just a lot of scenes where it's just two people in a room talking, and it's just very dry dialogue. Not a whole lot there to it, in my opinion.
And it seems like the point of a lot of those scenes is just to explain one thing, to give one idea that could be explained much faster. Oh, I want to steal the gold that he's storing. Oh, I believe in Captain Nemo. Boom. It could be a lot easier than a 10-minute scene of them back and forthing. Yeah, I think that's where the movie fails, but at least we do have really great actors in the leads. I think I love Kirk Douglas. I love James Mason in this movie. James Mason rocks as Captain Nemo.
I was surprised because I knew Kirk Douglas was in this movie, but when I saw the cast list, it's Kirk Douglas, James Mason, who is one of my favorite actors of all time, and then Paul Lukas, who's an Academy Award-winning actor, and then freaking Peter Lorre. I love Peter Lorre.
Yeah, I did not know Peter Lorre was in this movie, and in a very different role than he would normally do. He's kind of understated, a little timid in this role, which is usually not what he does.
If I would have known Peter Lorre was in this movie, I would have watched this movie a lot sooner.
Yeah, I didn't even know any of these guys were in this. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't even know Kirk Douglas was in this. And the most I knew about this movie was the Disney ride that existed. And I didn't even ride that back in the day. I don't even think I was alive for when it was running. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I was never on that one either. But
I don't know. It's definitely it's crazy the amount of cast. It cost $5 million to make, which in 1954 bucks was a lot. So there's a lot of power behind this. Walt Disney as well. It's a dang Walt Disney picture, so it's definitely just a big deal. Yeah, I guess it's easy to forget how important some movies are because, like, I mean, this movie comes up a lot, but I feel like not a lot of people bring it up.
Yeah, to me, it just seems like if you grew up watching this type of movie, you'd probably love it. I mean, just think if you were like a kid in the 50s and you go to the theater and see this movie, you'd be like, oh my gosh, like I've never seen anything like that. And of course, it generated a whole generation of steampunk kids, Nathan.
You think so? Is that, yeah. Steampunk kids, anti-government, anti-people, like Captain Nemo.
Yes, exactly. A lot of steampunk anarchists in this movie that generated.
Yeah, wow. And seal lovers, because there is a lovable seal sidekick in this movie.
Do we ever? It's Esmeralda the Sea Lion, and she is just cute as a button.
Yep. She does a little clapping when Kirk Douglas does a guitar and singing scene, which I guess reading about this movie, he learned how to play guitar for this movie. Like he practiced it. I guess whenever they were in the Bahamas and they got like a bunch of locals to do a scene, he like entertained them by playing guitar for them. Little weird fun facts about Kirk Douglas.
Hey, good for him. That's why that's why he lived for so long. He loves pleasing the people.
I guess so, yeah. As far as like the movie goes, it's simple. I feel like it's a story that like we've seen like it's been done, right? 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I don't know if I've ever seen a version of this movie, but I knew the plot. Like I watching the movie, I knew what was going to happen. I find that interesting.
Yeah, I feel like I have seen this too, and I really don't feel like we need to get into like the plot too heavily or anything like that because, I mean, it is based off of a really famous novel, and I think a lot of people are kind of aware, but it's just three guys that kind of get swept up in this submarine adventure with this guy, Captain Nemo. The only thing I didn't realize was just Captain Nemo having this really anti-world philosophy, like just wanting mass amounts of people to just die.
Yeah, he doesn't care about like the military, I thought that was wild for a movie at the time where like our most charismatic person in the movie is just out here murdering people, crashing in the boats. And of course the prisoners that he's taken, well, two of them are like, hey, you can't do that. What are you doing? That's awful. But obviously he's charismatic because Paul Lukas he actually is like, oh, I like this guy. I believe in what he has to say. I think he has a lot for the future. And that's pretty much all the boring scenes we're talking about. It's what I just said, back and forth at each other for about maybe like an hour, 15 minutes of this movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of scenes like that, or just Kirk Douglas telling James Mason, like, oh, how could you do this? Like, those were innocent men. He's like, you don't understand what it means to end war.
There's your James Mason accent. I knew you were going to do it.
Yes. Yeah, I've been honing it in.
Perfect. Thank you. It was great. Trying to think a little bit more about this movie. Is there any like really cool scenes that like stood out to you?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, right at the beginning, one thing I noticed was Kirk Douglas had two burlesque women on either side of his arm. Do you know what the names of those women were? Do you remember?
No, I don't.
It's a Disney movie, so they were both called Minnie and Daisy.
Oh, that makes sense. That's funny. Wow.
Yeah, little cute moment there. But one thing I thought was really cool was the dinner scene when they first come aboard, like the sub. They're like, oh wow, this food's really good, and James Mason is saying like, yes, nothing comes from the land, and it's just all these like really gross things that just kind of simulate like the feeling of beef. It's like, oh, this tastes like a steak. What's that? Oh, it's fried eel, or like it's filleted eel with barnacle sauce.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, it tastes just like a steak. And the doctor, the professor is just like, oh yeah, this is delicious, and then the other two are just so disgusted.
Yeah, Kirk Douglas is like spitting it out and everything. That felt like a Simpsons gag. It felt like a gag out of like a cartoon or something. I actually thought that was pretty funny too.
It was funny, and the one that made me like, ugh, was he? Oh yeah, hand me the cream, and he took a little thing of cream and he poured it. And he said, "Yes, that's milk of sperm whale."
Yeah, wow.
And I'm like, oh wow,
what in a Disney movie? Come on. Yeah. One thing I was really wowed by, like I said at the beginning of the show, was the special effects. There were some really cool scenes of like where they obviously had filmed the submarine, and then they shot like the screen of the submarine going by, but they put like rock figures in front of the video screen, right, where they projected the movie on.
Mm-hmm.
So it gave like this really cool depth feeling, and, because it was probably really hard to film something like that at the time. So I thought that was really cool. The octopus looks really fake, but I love the octopus. I love the way it looked. There's actually a really cool scene where any scene where they're looking out the submarine windows, the way they did perspective on that is really cool, because they're not really playing with like green screen or anything. So it really was a lot of hard work to do those special effects. I just thought that was really neat.
It was impressive for the time, especially the big squid fight scene, especially like the squid tentacles like coming in through the doors, and they're having like bat them away with the oars.
Yeah.
There was one scene too where after the squid left, like one of the ones that grabbed onto its face, you could see these little sucker marks on the guy's face. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. And that whole sequence is cool because it has a very Titanic vibe. There's something about like so like devastating about seeing like a set being just filled with water, because the ship's like got holes in it, water is flowing in, and Kirk Douglas is like wading through the water in the ship. It's just it's really cool. It's just a really cool set piece.
And that whole scene too, that was actually entirely reshot, because originally that scene was taken in the middle of dusk and calm waters. But when they kind of watched like the dailies back, they said that it looked really fake. I mean, you could see the squid tentacles looking really like with the wires coming in. So what they did was Walt Disney was actually the one that suggested reshooting the scene and have it take place at night during stormy waters. So it kind of hit a lot of those effects more.
Oh, nice. Good job, Walt. I guess that scene, God, am I forgetting? James Mason almost died during the making of the scene. Did you read that little fact? Yeah, no. I guess there is a scene where he gets dragged underwater and the tentacle is around his leg, and Kirk Douglas goes in to save him, and his foot got trapped under a cord, and he almost died. He almost drowned to death. They did get him off. They took him to a medic, and then they cleared him, and he went right back to filming right after. So he was a real trooper after that. It's just crazy because, like, I mean, that's the way it was back then. It was a little more dangerous to do big stunts back in those days.
Well, yeah, I mean, back then it was just kind of like the Wild West with like stunts. They could, like, okay, well, we don't really have computers to shoot these dangerous scenes, so let's just actually do these dangerous things and pray nobody dies.
Yeah, and like James Mason, who's like especially at this time, very accomplished actor, doing like a big scene like that. I don't know if any other actors now would of course it's like, oh, do computers or get my stunt double. No, James Mason's like, I'm doing it. Same with Kirk Douglas, also very established actor. They must have cost so much money to get them for this movie. I can only imagine. They were at like the height of their fame.
Kirk Douglas, they said he got paid $175,000, and at that stage that was the most money Walt Disney had ever paid an actor to do a movie.
Holy crap. Yeah, wow. Yeah, I mean, and it paid off. I see that this movie made like $28.2 million in 1954. And if you were to put that in some kind of calculator, that's got to be a really great amount of money.
Yeah, and they even said, too, that this was the most expensive movie at the time to ever be made.
That's insane. And you can tell. You can definitely tell.
It shows, definitely. I mean, just the set pieces alone, like the inside of the Nautilus, the ship that they're on, is crazy. I mean, there's just all these super attention to detail, especially James Mason's room where he has like all these really nice like antique stuff. He's got like this big globe in there. There's even a giant pipe organ like in the middle of the ship.
Yeah. Whoever was their set designer, like, it was great. Just the look of the submarine, like even the outside of it, just iconic look. Like the little fin it has on the top, the brown like steampunky deal it's got going on. It's got a great look to it. It's like a movie that I really appreciate the technical side of. I think technically it is just like a marvelous movie for its time.
I think so, and there's a lot to appreciate in here. I can't really say if it's really worth like an entire rewatch, in my opinion. I would say, in terms of recommendations, I would say, watch it, give it a shot, maybe. But a lot of the action scenes are worth seeking out if that's not something you're really interested in. But I mean, just those types of scenes are worth watching, just seeing how they did things back then.
Yeah, I personally think it's a movie worth watching. I'd recommend it just because I think it's I don't know. It seems like an important movie. It feels like a movie that I should have seen a long time ago, and I think it's a neat movie. I do think it's a cool movie. It's obvious that like people still love it, so I think it's definitely worth checking out at least once. Like you said, I won't be rewatching it. This is not on my rewatch list, but it's a cool movie. I'm happy I've seen it.
Absolutely. And there's other little cool facts too that we didn't mention. So the director, which I didn't say at the beginning, which I normally do, is actually his name is Richard Fleischer. And Nathan, what was the fact that you were telling me right before we went on?
Oh, yes.
Mike.
He is the son of Max Fleischer, who is like when Disney first started, was the direct competitor to Walt Disney. He did like the Popeye cartoon, all that. So yeah, which is insane. And then Walt Disney would go and hire this guy. They were really questioning if he would hire him just based off of that background. And yeah, no, they got him. And this guy, Richard Fleischer, is like he's directed great movies. One of them I really want to cover at some point. Fantastic Voyage has been on my watch list since I was a small child. So definitely want to hop on that one soon.
See, I thought you were going to talk about the other movie he's well known for, and that is Mandingo, also starring James Mason.
Oh, James Mason's in Mandingo?
Yes, he is.
Oh, boy.
Maybe not. Maybe we won't cover that one right away, but who knows?
No, he did. I'm looking at his filmography. Dang. Go ahead.
Did Soylent Green as well.
Soylent Green. He did Amityville 3D. That seems right up our alley. He did the 80s remake of The Jazz Singer. Dr. Dolittle, an Academy Award-nominated movie. He's done it all.
Absolutely.
Maybe our most accomplished director on the show, as far as like awards, maybe.
Is he?
I don't know. What else have we talked about?
I don't know. Maybe you're right. But
no, I'm probably making a really bold claim, and I'm gonna be like, we've talked about an Academy Award winning director.
Don't you remember when we talked about E.T., that Steven Spielberg low budget movie?
Steven Spielberg's a hack. He never did anything worthy.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, but
Sam
Nathan,
Fuller and
John Carpenter, Nathan. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Just for prosperity, I'm not cutting this out of the show. But yes, you're right. John Carpenter is probably the best director we covered. I love John Carpenter.
Brian De Palma. Oh my God, Nathan.
Oh God, please stop pointing out how wrong I am. Richard Fleischer is a great director, though. That's what I'll say. I'll say that. Richard Fleischer. He's a wonderful guy.
Once you talk about a certain amount of movies, they all just kind of run together. So please, don't blame either one of us.
Please, no. Brian De Palma is one of my favorite directors. I feel like awful about that. But no, I mean, yeah. Going back. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to reiterate what you said. It was I remember the one thing I did read about the exchange was that Walt Disney was everyone was a little like, oh, is he actually going to pick him or not? And then Walt Disney, Richard Fleischer actually said thank you so much for picking me despite who my father was. And Walt Disney was like, I picked you because you were the best director for the job.
That's a fun little fact, right? Like that it all comes back. I mean, I'm sure Disney was a fine guy. And I mean, that's a really I don't know, that's a nice story. Got any other fun facts about this?
I don't really have anything else to really add to this point. I mean, it's just a really fun movie, for the parts that I liked. There's some stuff in there, that's hasn't feel very of its time. Oh, well, actually, one question I do want to ask you, and I've kind of felt this way about older live action Disney movies. Don't you feel they have like some kind of the tone always feels really different to me when it's like a live action Disney movie versus like a movie from like a different studio during that time? It always feels like a lot more different to me, don't you think?
No, I agree. I would even say they're shot differently. They have a different tone. They have a look and feel to them all their own. Because the one that I've seen the most is probably the original Parent Trap. And that movie just exists on its own. I don't know. The only thing that looks like it is other Disney movies. I don't know how to explain it, though. But they do have that feeling.
Yeah, it's because I remember watching Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, like the original one, Kirk Douglas, or my family loved watching a lot of those, like The Ugly Dachshund, where it was about that Great Dane that thought he was a dachshund. So little stuff like that where it kind of feels a lot more light and airy, and it kind of feels like it's like in this really like pleasant world versus like this normal real world sense.
Right? Like this story could be so dark and gloomy. It could be so awful, but there's something about the way it presents itself is really light. I get why people are so nostalgic for Disney, especially like this era of Disney, because it just feels carefree. It feels like, nice and easy, palatable for a whole family to watch. No worries.
Well, yeah. I mean, James Mason is just murdering hundreds of men, but at the same time, it still feels like an adventure. So
exactly, like a swashbuckling adventure. And you know what? That's actually a quality I enjoyed about this. I actually like this movie. I do think it's worth watching, even through its like little boring bits. It's a neat movie, up there with the Apple Dumpling Gang. So, yeah.
Oh well, maybe we'll have to do that another time. But
maybe
we'll see. But Nathan, what are we going to be diving into next time?
Oh, we're going to be diving right into a plate of burgers and fries because we're doing Hamburger, the motion picture. That's another recommendation actually recommended from my dad, so you might be hearing from him next episode. Super excited to watch that one. That one's on YouTube. There's actually 2 versions on YouTube, so look it up if you want to give it a watch.
Absolutely. Cannot wait. I'm starving at the notion of having hamburger.
You're not allowed to eat until we record that episode, so.
Oh, can't wait.
If you have any recommendations, if you enjoyed 20,000 Leagues or Hamburger the Motion Picture, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you over at drive-in-double-feature-podcast@gmail.com.
And also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at DIDFpod.
Awesome. And until next time.
Until next time.